And you brought up an interesting thing too. So it's like the Akashic record, the light record, the light records unveil that our ancient ancestors were fully versed levels, the 13 levels of consciousness through our DNA.
A atmosphere over the earth that keeps the sun's radiation, the heliosphere.
Hi, everyone. As you can see, I have Nancy Jean. I know it's flip-flop, strange things, weird things happen, things change. So Adam is not able to be with us, but we're still going to go push forward. And I am actually putting it on my channel instead of Nancy's channel. So just how it is. Thank goodness we're always changeable and malleable so that we can definitely be available for anything that changes out there. And that is one of our foundations of what we're talking about today is the DNA. What is it called? The DNA, the 13 levels of consciousness through our DNA.
In the book Power versus Force by David R. Hawkins, there's a hierarchy of levels of human consciousness. It's an interesting paradigm. If you read the book, it's also fairly easy to figure out where you fall on this hierarchy based on your current life situation. From low to high, the levels of consciousness are shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, and enlightenment.
Now, I'm going to put a whole bunch of information up of either before this, if you've already learned it, or during all of this, is to explain to us what we're talking about. So we have medical. Let's put a disclosure out there. We are not doctors. If you feel a certain type of way, please go to the doctor and make sure that this is not a medical issue. If the doctor cannot find anything with you, it's more than likely what we were talking about now. And I just did a reading with somebody that I was explaining that to them. They said, I've been to the doctors, they can't find nothing, And I said, well, then maybe, just maybe your problem is mentally, emotionally, and also metaphysically, energetically.
This, you are energy. A vibration of you like a signature is surrounding your physical body every moment of the day and night. Your human physical body is a receiver of this energy, a tool to express the power that is around you. Your mind is also a tool of this energy, this consciousness that surrounds you. Your field of energy is continually interacting with the world and sharing your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs with it. Think of it as a bubble of light around you. When you come into contact with other people, your bubbles merge, they touch and interweave, and information is exchanged. Your energy affects those around you. When you sleep, work, or sit next to someone, your fields interlace. If you come across someone with a similar energy to yours, and you are in close proximity to them, your energies are heightened, as the combination, the melding of the two induces an even stronger signal in the same or similar direction. An actual exchange of energy takes place that changes your combined vibrations. This is why it is crucial who you choose to spend the majority of your time with. Your energy is exchanging with the people you are around, whether you want it to or not. And it is enhancing the similarities between you. The dominant connection grows. This can be in a positive or a negative direction. You also exchange energy with the environment around you, and this is why it is so beneficial to spend time in nature. The trees, the ocean, the ground is also sharing its energy with you and you with it. Gaia is sharing its love with you constantly. So take some time to tune into that presence and peacefulness that she offers. It is a naturally loving and flowing weave if you take a moment to feel it. Spend time with people who bring out the best in you, the ones that seem to lift the part of you that has always been in there, but it resonates with a louder voice when you are together. The synergistic energy exchange between you elevates your mood, increases your inspiration, and awakens a deep purpose or passion within you. Your mind and heart field can also extend way beyond a bubble that surrounds your body. Your thoughts and feelings can affect people over the other side of the planet. You can stretch your energy to embrace the entire Earth. Remote viewing is an example of this. Even if you're on the other side of the planet, those with practiced abilities in seeing energy can move their vision to actually observe what is going on in another location. You reach out with your energy, or move your intention to be able to experience another space in time. Energy is outside space and time, and that is why it can be tricky to understand. Our minds are usually not accustomed to thinking in this way. We are taught that everything in our physical life is dependent on time and space, a linear point of view. Working with energy and a conscious exchange of energy works on a multi-dimensional level, like the center of a circle. Everything exists simultaneously in the circle. The moment is the center in which everything weaves in and out of, but it all exists simultaneously. Many lives can be experienced at one time. Your energy can move in and out of space and time because it is multi-dimensional. Your soul is multi-dimensional. Who you really are is beyond the confounds and limitations of space and time. Working in the realm of energy is so much fun, and it opens your perspective to a whole new level of understanding life and living. The central nugget to understanding energy is intention. The quote from the movie The Secret is so true and poignant here. Energy flows where attention goes, because your attention can be controlled by your intention. If you intend to focus on something, you are giving your energy to it. Henceforth, if you intend to bring out the best in those around you, and you direct your attention to finding the highest expression of them, your experience of those around you will be enhanced. This is metaphysically giving a direction to the energy around your body to find and illuminate the highest expression of those around you. What you see is in direct alignment with your intention. Intention and energy walk hand in hand to build reality, and synergistic energy exchange is evidence of intention. An energy exchange on a positive level feels fantastic. It is like pure inspiration, enthusiasm, joy, and appreciation. It's like being bathed in a warm, familiar light. It is my intention for you to experience this level of love.
And this is kind of where we're talking about the downloads and the information that we get and the information, our DNA that on an energetic level is changing, and it changes as I go through. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Nancy, who will explain a little bit more about the photons and the energetic and the DNA changing. So take it over, Danny. Or Danny. Oh my gosh.
Danny, I don't have the hair. How could you I couldn't be more bald, right?
It was just on my head. Nancy.
Anyway, what we're going to talk about is when we're talking about the shift we're going through, I was aware I was living through it and I was doing the right things just by following my own instincts, but I didn't understand what it started for me in 2017 and 2018 when I dyed my hair purple. And then I went to Colorado and I visited a friend for a long weekend and ended up in a lot of rock stores. And I'd never seen crystal grids before or really done that much with crystals. I always had them on my table and I liked them, but yeah. And I saw crystal grids and all of a sudden I was just, something shifted inside me and said, you have to learn about these things. So this was in October of 2018. By 2019, in the February, I built my first grid, figured out it worked, built a grid for some other people. And I was just talking to one the other day and she had me build it for her to build some venture capital. And she wanted to make $25 million in investor capital. And I finally talked to her about 6 months ago because we lost track of each other during COVID. She didn't get 25 million, she got 50.
Ooh.
And I'm not promising you if I build your grid, that's going to happen. But I'm just saying I've had a lot of evidence that all this stuff that I was being pushed to learn how to make, because, I was in my late 60s then. This is not a time when you start a new career. And I was driven to understand the stones. And the more I was around the stones, the more I realized things were shifting around me. And I felt like it was something coming from somewhere else, but I didn't know what it was. And then I was watching a video, like we all do on YouTube, with Pam Gregory, and she was interviewing Rory Duff. And he started talking about how our part of the galaxy had, we have a atmosphere over the Earth that keeps the sun's radiation, the heliosphere, keeps it.
One thing, intelligent life. Another altogether. That requires billions of years and a powerful force field like the one we owe our lives to every day.
Sun's radiation from burning us up. Well, we had, as a solar system, as part of our galaxy, we had rotated out of a protective cloud that we had been in for 12,000 years. And we were now being exposed to many more subatomic particles, which can be kind of called photons. That's not neutrons, neutrinos are also part of it, but it's more light. More light could get at us. The actual little power thing that goes through the universe that creates light. So we're getting a lot more of the energy from supernovas that have exploded and sent that energy out into space. And our planet is being exposed to it much more broadly. And he started talking about waves and how there are waves in the universe that overflow us, but because when we had the protective barrier, they didn't do the same thing, but now they are. And he started giving dates and times in late 2019 and 2020, coming into COVID, that this was going on, that these waves of energy were coming across us. And so I started paying attention to that. And lo and behold, I started putting some of the dates together, and I realized this all tied together with when I was getting more enlightened. It made sense to me. But then I started looking up, well, how does that change us? And one of the things I found because of my study of crystals, that scientists had been waiting for this to come because every 12 to 13,000 years, the Earth gets bombarded by a lot of photonic and subatomic particle energy, and they found it in the rocks. And of course, there were no humans back when that happened that could record it unless they were in a cave, and they probably weren't drawing subatomic particles in caves. And anyway, I went, this is fascinating. So I started studying it. I started looking at it, and I began to realize that it all had, I've sent, you can look back in some of my shows. I did a thing on sacred geometry.
The architecture of the universe. and even the fingerprint of God. Sacred geometry is found throughout the natural world. Indeed, it is all around us, an aspect of the true matrix, if you have the eye to see it. It is also one of the very few subjects which appeals to both left brain and right brain ways of thinking at the same time.
And there are certain frequencies, and these things are coming through at different frequencies. And you can see, you can put a drop of water in and you can run different frequencies over that drop of water. It will stay suspended between two sound waves, and it will make all of the figures that are part of sacred geometry till you get to 9, and then it breaks up. And so I did a show on that, and I was like, this is really interesting. I kept looking, and I began to realize that my whole journey was based on getting in touch with those frequencies. And then I heard about people saying, you know, if you can get your frequencies right, you can actually stand outside your body and you can kind of heal and you can understand the oneness. And so about 2.5 months ago, I was sitting in this very chair thinking about my journey from being a little kid who read cards, somebody who studied astrology, somebody opened through astrology. I learned numerology. Through numerology, I learned all these different vibrations. And, you know, then I learned about the rocks and the stones and that they are connected to all of this too, and the sacred geometry. And I was just sitting here and I was just beginning to study Fibonacci, which is a spiral that's in all of nature, and it's in the galaxies and it's in the tiniest seeds. It's even when a egg is implanted with a sperm, the first thing it does is it creates the world. It's a Fibonacci whirl. So I went, all this is connected, and all of a sudden I realized that I was connected as an individual to all of this too, that we're all part of this giant universe. And for the first time in my life, I understood the term oneness. And I sat here for a few minutes in the oneness, and I realized I wasn't alone. That you can, once you cross into oneness, you can never be alone again, because alone is what our egos put in front of us. Alone is what our egos create. That's part of the 3D energy. And I had clearly gotten past that into this oneness. And it's not there every day. And it doesn't mean that I don't get aggravated and angry and don't fall off the wagon, but I've never gotten to any of the kinds of sense of self-isolation. We're not isolated. None of you are isolated. We're all part of this giant mechanism that's been coming towards us for a long time, and that's where we're going.
I agree. I think loneliness is a product of our ego trying to separate us from the collective.
Yep.
I tell somebody who is lonely, I says, well, let's see where you have disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
Let's find that out as a reading.
Right.
Let's go see where you're trying to disconnect. I completely agree with that. I also have, that ascension is like everybody out there thinking that the ascension is where we see the bright light and we're just all, but ascension levels are really as slight and as common as we go. Just like you said, like my first things is being exposed to, tarot cards, being exposed to palmistry, being exposed to crystals, being exposed to minus muscle testing, being exposed, to all of this. These are all of the ascension levels as we go. And it's not like a thing that we're going to be so high we're on a pedestal. It is just a level far removed from negative thinking, right? We're just we're just getting farther away from all of that negative thinking or that low vibration. That's all it is. So you can think of it linear. You can think of it, as horizontal or you know what I'm saying?
Vertical.
Yeah, there we go. Vertical. You can think of vertical or horizontal. I've always thought of it as a horizontal line, where I'm moving along the line, and at the end is when I die, right? So my horizontal line, I'm still moving. And you brought up an interesting thing too. Is it's like the Akashic record, the light record, the light records unveil that our ancient ancestors were fully versed in the different levels of DNA. the
Mhm.
13 levels of consciousness of our DNA. So, I mean, we even have all of these things that even our ancestors knew. I know Native American, and I'm not Native American. All I'm telling you is what I've learned from the Native American. And the Native American takes rocks and things like that, and they call them the grandfathers and the grandmothers, right? And the reason why they call them the grandfathers is because they have all of the ancient wisdom in them.
Mhm.
You know, where did they get that idea?
Mhm.
That our crystals and our rocks and things like that that we gather throughout have all of our ancient wisdom, as it says in here, like the crystals are the DNA of the earth. And so we have a lot of that too. So I just wanted to have you, like, one of your, I'll go first. And one of my stories is my chakra reading. So one day in my 30s, I was at a metaphysical fair because I didn't know what else to do, right? And so I go to this metaphysical fair, and in this metaphysical fair, I walk into this. You could take your chakra picture or whatever, you know, have all the colors. What is it called when you take
Brilliant photography.
Yeah, so you could take that and you could tell which one, you know, but it was called something else when you could take a photo.
Yeah, no, it's like shows little rays out of your body.
Yes.
That's brilliant photography.
Curly, but they called it something else. Come and take
Well, they may have.
your aura picture. There it is, your aura picture. And so I sat down and did that, and I go walk to
Whether or not you believe in its validity, color aura photography has become exponentially popular as a way to capture a unique snapshot of these things. It's really gone from an obscure experience you might stumble across in Chinatown to a super trendy thing to discuss over brunch. A quick search on Instagram reveals that there are over 22,000 posts tagged with aura photography.
away, and it was all pink, and here's white, and there looked like there was some ghosts in the back as she explained it to me and all that. And so I've all of a sudden gotten the light. I'm like, oh, I got more around me. So I go into the door, and like I said, I've already done tarot cards and stuff like that, and I've known this. I'm willing to learn more. And I go in the door, and there's all around the outside you can get a reading. And of course I scale them out, see which one I want to do, if there's any time or money, because I was poor at the time because I was a single mother. But you know, if I could do that. But then I went into the middle, and then of course all of the books, you know. So these, I mean, literally being at a metaphysical fair, I was ascending. I was already being elevated. I was already getting all of the knowledge. I was already, you know, being in all of this stuff. And I came across this one person that did a chakra clearing, and she actually lived in town. So I sat and talked with her for a while, and she explained to me about why we have to have a chakra clearing. She said that our energy runs just like our blood through our bodies. And when we have blockages, which could be brought around by hate, resentments, unsolved healing, you know, all of this stuff. Fear. Oh, fear is a huge one. The fear, it blocks the energy moving through my body. And it made so much sense to me. Also, the energy needs to be cleared up like water. And, you know, it could be very, very muddy and unclear. Therefore, you're feeling bad. You're not, your mind is not clear. You are more prone to get angry at things and more prone to be fearful of things. You know, she was explaining to me. So I signed up, and later on, and in the month, I was able to go and pay for a chakra reading. Changed my life. Right? She worked with me for almost 2 hours in clearing things. And as I was doing it, I was talking, and she was just using all of her tools and getting this all out. And I walked out of there with a better, clearer mind, and my emotions weren't so unstable. And I was like, okay, this was tangible. This was tangible ascension that was happening to me. I could feel it. I could actually tell my story that, yeah, I'm a witness to this experience. And this is also that changing of that DNA energy, the changing of that malleable stuff. And it's almost like, well, how do you get to the point where you can remote view? And I said, I've had years of healing and doing stuff, right? I had to clear a path for the communication. I can't just be down in the muck of anger, fear, resentments, never doing anything internally, and automatically, I can hear things. That didn't work for me. So I had to literally get all the way to the point, and there was more stuff that I was learning, palmistry and, muscle testing also changed my life. Muscle testing on what my body can accept, what it doesn't want to eat, and all of this stuff, the muscle testing. I'll put a little video up on explaining muscle testing.
Hello, I'm Dr. Trent Burrup, founder of the Institute of Chiropractic and Acupuncture Therapy. And the topic of this video is muscle testing or applied kinesiology. In the few minutes that I've got here, what I wanted to do was just basically explain what muscle testing is and how we can use it in the clinic to help gain a more functional diagnosis as to what's going on with somebody. Muscle testing has been around for years. It was originally developed in the 60s by Dr. George Goodhart, and today it's used by lots of different doctors as a functional diagnosis tool. We use it in conjunction with x-rays, blood work, other kinds of examinations to get a functional diagnosis as to what's out of balance in the body. The way it works, it's basically just a nerve reflex test, kind of like a knee-jerk test. You've had a doctor hit your knee with a reflex hammer and the leg kicks or doesn't kick or kicks and spasms, but how that muscle responds with that reflex doesn't tell us anything about the knee. Those reflexes tell us basically how the brain and how the spinal cord are functioning. And applied kinesiology is the same kind of nerve testing. It's just instead of knee-jerk testing, we use strength testing. So with Natalie, what we're going to do as a demonstration is a basic muscle test. I like using the shoulder because it's just easier to test than the leg. We could test any muscle in the body. But if we're going to test her shoulder, we'll have her put her arm out, keep her elbow straight, then I'm going to push down while she resists and pushes up. And we're just going to see how responsive her muscle is. So hold strong for me. Hold tight, tight, tight. Hold tight, hold tight. Good. And I can lean on her with a pretty fair amount of force, and she's able to hold her arm up. One of the things muscle testing is it's not an attempt to see how much force it takes to overpower the person. All we're really doing is checking to see, is the muscle responsive? Whether I push a little bit or I push a lot, does her muscle actually push back? And it does. She has a good, strong muscle. Now, if we're going to go in and do some testing, we can actually utilize some of these nerve reflexes to find out where there are imbalances in the body. Now, Natalie, she likes hiking. She's been out hiking a bunch recently, and a couple of weeks ago, she tweaked one of her knees, and so we've been working on them. She's actually feeling pretty good now, but we're gonna just test her knee and see how her knee is doing at this point. So she's gonna reach down and touch over her knee where she's had some of the problems, and we're just gonna redo the strength test and see if that changes. So hold strong for me, don't let me push down. And now, hold tight. And now when she touches her knee, she's not able to hold her arm up. Now, if we want to check and see if there are other places, reach up and touch in your neck. Hold strong for me. That stays pretty solid, indicating there's not a problem in the neck. When she touches over her knee, she starts to stimulate nerves and neurons that perhaps are sensing pain or are overactive. And what happens is there's a lot of neurology and electrical things that happen in the nervous system that trigger that strong muscle to become weak. When she touches her neck, we don't see that reaction because she doesn't have any problems in her neck right now. Having her muscle go weak with the knee doesn't tell me what the problem is. It's just her body saying something's not very happy here. As the physician, it now becomes my job to try and figure out what is it we need to do, whether it's a chiropractic adjustment or acupuncture or physical therapy or any number of treatments. So we're going to adjust her knee and see if that changes it. Go ahead and lay on your back.
And so that also changed my life too, so that and then another level of ascension, right? Another level that I'm getting there and getting clearer and understanding on what it does. So I know you have a couple of stories as well. It's how it worked for you.
Yeah, when I've always been pretty honest with my doctors about who I am and what I kind of do. And I had an experience when I was in my mid-60s where I went to my eye doctor and he checked my eyes and he goes, your eyes are not dilating at the same level. And he said, and he looked at all the reasons it would be visual. And it didn't affect how I saw things, but it was just weird. So he said, it's not in your eye. So I went to my normal physician, the medical one, And she did the boing boing thing on my head. They look for tumor. I mean, when your eyes don't dilate evenly, that's like a big deal. So they boing boinged me all over, and they couldn't find any reason. So finally, my doctor looked at me and she said, well, have you talked to Norma? Norma was my herbalist. And I said, no. And she said, well, you ought to talk to Norma. And I didn't know if she meant talk to Norma to see if anything I was taking could do this or what. But Norma would hold your hand and she would scan your body. And she said, your thyroid's low. She said, not just really low, really, really low. So she said, go back and tell the doctor to run the more detailed thyroid test and you'll find it. So they did. And my doctor looked at me and she said, well, you know, do you want this? They have artificial thyroid stuff they can stick in you. And I said, no, Norma's already got me on some herbs to fix this. And it was milk thistle. And so she said, well, we'll give that 6 months. We'll test you again. And then she said, I couldn't find anything in thyroid that showed this. So she went back and got her physician's desk reference, which is this giant Wampo book full of everything that can go wrong with you. And she brought it out. And on the very last page under thyroid deficiency was, it can cause your eyes to not dilate evenly. She'd been practicing for 30 years. She said, I had never seen this before.
Wow.
So then
you
6 months later, right. So 6 months later, I was going to have my knees replaced. And so she said, bring in the herbs you take. And I said, well, the only one I'm taking right now is milk thistle. And she said, give it to me. She carried it up to the nurse's station in the hospital where they replaced my knees. And they knew I was going to be there for a week and a half because I did both knees together. And she said, handed to the nurses and wrote out a prescription that I was to have milk thistle every day. And the nurses came running down the hall and said, how the hell did you get the doctor to prescribe this for you? And I said, because she knows it works. So, you know, all of these synchronicities took me to understand that there are different places for different things in your life. And, but what we're going through right now with this shift of energy is it's speeding the whole process up, and our DNA is actually changing. You can change your body on a cellular level. I did it this year by, I've had some distance healers working with me, but it was 2 weeks after I realized that I was one and that I could be part. Now, you don't live in that state of I'm always part of the universe. It's Joe Dispenza talks about it with his practice. And what he says is once you go there, you want to keep going back. And that's true. It's very, this is wonderful state of being. But after I had that experience, I noticed that I wasn't wheezing at all. And I had adult asthma from having had double pneumonia. And when I went to my doctor and got my physical, she listened to my lungs. She said, I'm going to have to listen to your lungs again. She listened to him and she said, what have you been doing that completely cleared your lungs? And I said, well, I've been doing some distance healing and I've been doing some meditations and I'm working on fixing myself at the most basic levels I can. And she said, keep doing it. She said, I don't have a medicine that can clear with what's happened to your lungs. So there's a whole lot of reasons to work on this. And even if you never reach that, I feel kind of bad sometimes talking about this stuff because like my heart condition popped up in the middle of all this too. And I'm not fixing that one right today, but I will. And a friend of mine told me today when I told him what we were going to be talking about, he said, you need to explain to people that you have a lot of stories, and he's known me for 25 years. He said, you've helped me understand how to battle through some physical abnormalities I put in my own way that stopped me from feeling as good and doing what I could do psychically.
Yeah.
Because I know when I was at my worst physically, I couldn't do nearly what I can do now. I couldn't deal with the energies. Now, the trade-off is I don't like crowds much. I don't like feeling other people's energy all that much. I have to feel that in a very controlled situation. So it's a trade-off. But what's really happening and what does it have to do with our chromosomes is that these photons in Atlantis, we healed people by shining crystals and light and music, harmonic music through them. And that's how he healed them. So if you've never heard singing bowls, that's another thing that can really help you learn. When you can feel the bowl, the vibration of the bowls really going through you, it's changing your body. But our DNA is there. And these photons, if you follow, there's a guy named Dan Winter. And if you want a rabbit hole of enormous proportions, go look at any of his stuff. But he talks about how he understands the physics and the spirals and all the things that we see in space. We see it from the tiniest fertilization of an egg to the big giant galaxies that are out there floating around us. And we're all part of the same movement. And once you understand that, and you can see that in his work, but what then your DNA is opened up, you are opened up. And these photons, which the Atlanteans used to use to heal people, we can learn to heal ourselves. Or not even if just healing yourselves. I won't tell you, kids, you're changing, whether it's healing or not healing. You're changing, there are mutations that are happening in us, and we're going to become different beings.
Yep, I agree.
And
yeah, getting deeper, as I say, getting deeper into this definitely is for another video, but, just starting off, and I just wanted you to explain, how does it feel to you when you are going through it? I mean, if you're just walking like, what is wrong with me? Why am I feeling this way? I know that we now can connect to what it is, but how does it make you feel when you're going?
When I know it's like all the stress has gone away, and I lived a life of incredible stress and mostly self-imposed.
So, I mean, while you're going through it, not the aftermath, like when you're in it.
Well, you have to kind of decide where you stand. Where do you stand in the universe? What are you balanced? Are you understanding the things that are going on around you, and trying to not react with fear? And I mean, there was the day I went into that state and realized that I was almost floating outside my body. But I knew I was connected. That was what was so weird, is I kept thinking when you'd get to this nirvana point, you feel very separate from your being. But I wasn't separate from my being. It's like my whole being was here.
Right.
And that's different. And that's what the 13 chromosomes are like. If Sheila's going to send that illustration, the 13 levels of consciousness within, I think I may be out at a 4 or a 5 now. But you start with the 2 DNA strands we have. That's the first 2 markers. And then there are 11 steps beyond that. And if you think about that, if you understand numerology at all, 11 is the first master number. And it is the one, the self meeting the one, the self. That's what 11's about. And it's mastering yourself. So if you go through the meditations, and you can do it through meditation, you can do it through walking, you can do it through exercise, you can do it through just choosing to control just you. It has nothing to do with my kids. It has nothing to do with people around me. It has nothing to do with my parenting or anything else. It has to do with just me being me at the end of the day. And I can't teach you how to be you. I can tell you that the more you understand about how all of the universe is tied together, and that's where I get to, people come to me and they say, oh, give me a reading that's going to solve my problems. I now know I can never give anyone that reading. The only person I can give a reading that will solve the problems is for myself. I can give you perspectives on where I see energies moving around you, which is my skill in life, but I can't, nobody else is going to fix your kids. I hate to tell you, but it's just down to you. And I wanted trust me, for 72 years, I wanted someone else to swoop in here and finally give me the answer. But the answer is inside yourself. It's inside every cell of your body. It's inside of you, and understanding that what's inside of you is actually directly connected to everything that's outside of you.
Yeah, I have sometimes those days or those weeks that I go through. And the first part when I feel something changing inside of me is I will start losing, like, how can I put it? I will lose the ability to control things on the inside, if that makes any sense. So when I get that, all of a sudden I start feeling all of these emotions, and these emotions are going up and down and crazy and in and out. And I know I'm an adult nowadays. I am not going to overreact just because my feelings are out of whack. I'm just not. So what I do is I sit back and I ask, what is this? Where is this coming from? And I remember so vividly one time asking that question. I had went to bed that night and my emotions were just in this ball, right? And it felt like somebody just put it in a ball and then threw it up in the air. And I'm like, I would say these words out of my mouth back then, I am as lost as I've ever been. Oh, that's what I would say. I would say to people, I feel so lost. And I remember somebody telling me, he's like, Sheila, all it is you have done so much work on the inside that what has happened is all of you is in the air, rearranging itself. And if you make it through, some people don't, but if you make it through and just have some patience, all of this will settle and be rearranged on the inside. And that was my experience. That's how I felt. I was like, oh, so what I did is I just walked through with patience. I'm like, okay, I feel lost, whatever, out of control. I don't know what a better word for it is, but I just did what I had to do that day. And I kept reminding myself, it's okay to feel this way because things are being rearranged. Now I got to the other side where stuff started to pop back in, and my emotions and who I am was just so rearranged because of all the work that I did, that I was more conscious and more solid in this preparing to heal kind of a situation. Is I said in my mind, I will do this as many times as possible. If there's something to be healed, I'm there, I'm available. And I remember that healing, and healing feels to me like a warm, fuzzy feeling, like a warm emotional, can I put it, like a healing. You know how when you have an exterior healing, you know that it's healing because it's starting to itch. Right. And so my emotional healing, I know that it's starting to heal because I can feel like an ache, but it's not hurtful. But the ache is there, but it's transmuting into, you can just feel it getting better and better and better. And that's how I feel when I am healing. So it's something to be aware of your body, to be aware of your mental state, to be aware of your emotional state of mind while you do this. Because some people, you can get, so if they do not understand what's going on, a lot of times it is diagnosed as loneliness, craziness, I don't understand, and they start doing things to fix it, like either alcohol, drugs, or whatever it is people use to start manipulating what they feel. And my recommendation is not to do any and all of that. Patience is the answer. Just wait it out, and you will see on the other side, when you're doing huge, big ascensions, there's small ones, but there's some huge ones when you're doing the work that you're going to walk through. And I think patience is the answer on that. So is that
the other part is, if you've never seen any of the heart math videos on YouTube, go look at them. But the field around your heart, your energetic field around your heart, is much bigger than the one around your head. And my problem is I lived in my head for so long. Matter of fact, I lived outside my head. I think a lot of my youth, my consciousness was in a balloon behind me, and I just watched this little kid walk around. But the more I can pull my energy into the center of my body, the happier and the better it gets along. And the more then I tie into the synchronicities, because I don't have my brain saying, oh, well, it just happened. It's just a chance that happened. I realized, no, that was there purposefully, and it was there to help guide me. So I try to be guided through my heart a lot. And it's not just booze, it's not just drugs, it's not just getting angry at people for no reason. I saw a thing and I copied it onto my phone, and it says, there's never an answer to that problem in the refrigerator.
That's so
That's the other one. You can't eat your way out of it.
Yeah, eating is another one
Eating.
that they turn to. Yep.
And, you know, or having to have someone around you, because I always had people around me when I was younger. I always had people around me. And now I can go, I mean, I have my kids, I got to see them every day, but I don't, you know, I don't have to have a plethora. I mean, I ran volunteer organizations of thousands of people. I had people around me. And that's another place that we escape and getting involved in all those kinds of problems. But it's not a matter of escaping. It's a matter of going through those life experiences and then deciding who you are at the center. When your heart opens up, who's going to be there?
Right. Well, the universe is always been there. You know, that's the reason why people started naming it, is so that they can communicate to other people what it is. I mean, there's so many names of this universe: Gaia, Buddha, God, Jesus Christ, all of these names that people started to come up with, you know, in the Native American, it's Lakasha, you know, so that we can communicate what you're feeling and what you're going through is this. And so we just have to make sure that we're not manipulating it and using it for bad, actually. You know,
just have to let it in instead of saying you're outside there, you're not a part of me. We have to let it in so it's part of us.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think the energy shift is. Now, other people's energy shift might be very different, but it's one of the reasons why people who've looked at this over the long haul, historically, it's why I started studying ley lines and energy centers and things like that, because we're going through enormous shift, and it's not just you and I individually, it's the planet.
Yes.
You know, and when we hit that point of real change, all of those ley lines, all those energetics need to be pulled together. And I think when it was easier for me to think about, I need to hook up all the little connections to connect the world, than it was that I need to hook up all the little connections to connect to me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is stop waiting for the universe to come to you. You go to the universe. Like, you are available. I always say to myself, I am available for change. I am available for healing. I am available for the help that the universe gives me. And that is where the bonds started to become stronger and stronger. I could go the other way. I don't need any help. I can do this by myself. Leave me alone. There, I'm walking away and becoming again lonely, not connected. And I agree. It is definitely, and this is where I think they start describing that we all have free will. You can either connect to the consciousness and be aware and grow with that, or you can consciously remove yourself away from it, which is painful. Very, very painful in my own experience, when you move away from the universe's energy for us. So, well, thank you so much, Nancy. I think this is a great conversation. We shall continue on with this.
Well, we're going to teach people how. I think we're going to show them how to use pendulums to check their own vibrations, because that's really important. It was finally in the last few months where I learned how to follow vibrations on a chart and how to see where I was, that I began to it gave me a barometer, because low vibrations can be very deceptive and you cannot realize you're going there. But, you know, once you get to feeling, and you can look on a chart and you can check your pendulum and douse yourself to see how balanced you are. That is a place to start, because the creeping downward can come also. I mean, just as you can go up, you can, without working and thinking and being conscious, because what we're increasing is our consciousness, and we need to be able to do that. And I know other people, this is kind of what I do. I deal with this stuff all the time, but people can do it that just want to work at learning who they are
Yeah.
and how they fit.
That's the biggest question I get all the time. How do I raise my vibration?
You want me to show them a quick way?
Well, we can raise our
We're going
vibration,
over time.
but we have
Okay.
to be available for the raising. That's where the misstep is right there. Are you, and I'll always ask, are you available for that energy to be risen? And they have to answer that question and say that out loud. Just because they ask that question doesn't mean that they're already available. Because if you still want to hang on to the hate of the ex-husband, raising your vibration is going to be a difficult task if you can at all.
Well, if you do, and then you go back into hate, you'll just go backwards.
Yeah, you go backwards. Well, this is the thing is when you are still willing to hold on to that, high vibration is not something you can really do at that time, except for I'm available for a higher vibration. You can go from hate to disdain. Disdain's a higher vibration, right? And then keep on going up and going up and going up. But that's the first question I ask them. Are you truly available for a higher vibration? Are you willing to let go of that? And if they're not willing to let go of that, their journey is difficult. If you're willing to let go of that, it becomes a little easier to understand how raising your vibration works.
Well, I was showing some friends when I was trying to figure out how to use dowsing and my vibration was up at 1,000, and I was so proud of myself. And I got like the 4th scammer call, and so I picked it up and just was gonna cut it off. And the guy, he started off being snarly, so I got snarly back. And finally, I said a not very polite Anglo-Saxon expletive to him and suggested he do that to himself. And I hung the phone up, and my friends that were watching me it was a private Zoom call, and they said, check your vibrations now. I had dropped 400 points.
Yeah.
It happens that fast. And I think sometimes if you douse and you learn that, you can see, wow, these are the things I need to watch out for. So, maybe watching hateful news or watching people you can't stand on, all the things we talk about, to avoid those things. Now, sometimes your life is in a place where you can't avoid all of it, but you can work on getting yourself above it.
Right. That's the one thing is don't go into a situation without being emotionally stable. If you can't handle it, don't do it. Like, I don't go into Walmart anymore because I can't stand being there. So I'm not going to go into Walmart anymore because I don't have the emotional stability to walk in there without going, I can't stand this place. So I don't know, and I don't even want to investigate exactly why, but I walk in there just angry. So I'm like, I'm not going into Walmart until I'm ready for that. Because I want to walk into Walmart being as serene and as calm as I can. There's something there that I need to work through before I go back to it. So like, don't watch, political news if you're not able to handle it. You have to be able to get that through so that you can go handle it. That's also part of the ascension, part of the going through and rising above. It is okay not to be able to do something. That's not the point here. The point is be aware that you're not able to, and then if you ever wanted to, or if you wanted to work on that problem, you can through raising your vibration.
Yeah, well, I used to like to watch a lot of real true crime. I used to be head of Crime Watch for Dallas, and so I knew a lot of police officers, and I just found it entertaining. I find I can't watch it anymore because it's like they've turned the lowest point in their life into spectator sport.
Yeah. So once you also know that you can't go back to something that you used to enjoy, that's exactly it. Don't do something that will lower your vibration, knowing that you are not able to do it. Yeah, I
Mhm.
agree with that so much.
And so, yeah, so we're gonna move on. We will undoubtedly do a show where we show about self-dowsing and other things, cord cutting and some things like that.
Yep.
Because,
we
there's a
go with-
lot of ways we can control the energy around us and make it an easier road to hoe.
I agree. All right,
Well,
everyone.
thank you.
Thank you. See you next
Bye-bye.
time.
Ancient cultures around the world have been using the practice of sound healing, a healing practice which uses specific audio tones and vibrational frequencies to repair damaged tissue and cells within the body. It works on the basis that all matter is vibrating at specific frequencies, and sickness, disease, depression, and stress cause human beings to vibrate at a lower frequency. Playing tones in specific frequencies that promote healing, happiness, and vitality can even allow DNA strands to repair themselves, and several scientific studies have been conducted on the potential healing benefits of audio sound frequencies. Sound has been used as a healing tool for centuries and is still regularly utilized by many different alternative healthcare centers.